Hi, folks. Andrew here, Top Fitness Strategies. I am the face who runs the place. And this week we got a great interview coming up for you. Hey, if you're here for the first time, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe, hit the bell, do all that good stuff. And check out topfitnessstrategies.com. I have all kinds of good stuff over there. I have joined the virtual gym over there because I do a lot of question and answer on emails. Check it out, the virtual gym. You'll understand what you go there, topfitnessstrategies.com. Okay, on to the main event. I will bring her on. My guest today is Barbara Walsh. Barbara is an NBC-HWC board-certified master health coach and founder of Good Nature Wellness. Barbara is, Barbara, master health coach. I said that. Okay. I repeat myself quite a bit here, Barbara. Barbara has overcame breast cancer naturally with the healing power of food and prayer, no surgery, radiation, or chemo. Now 7 years cancer-free, Barbara helps women fearlessly take control of their health like a boss and jumpstart a metabolic reset in their bodies and lose belly fat, regain their energy, feel confident when they look in the mirror, and avoid being sidelined by breast cancer diagnosis. She's also the host of the Good Nature Wellness podcast. And now you can also add on your resume, you're a guest on Top Fitness Strategies. Welcome, Barbara.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here today.
Okay. Barbara and I met, we're on the same Facebook group where people basically talk to each other about different podcasts and guests and things of that sort. And she, and I put out a message saying I'd like to get a few guests, and she responded, and I looked at her stuff. Obviously she probably looked at my stuff and still wanted to come on with me. So that's a good thing. But her podcast is fantastic. So Barbara, why don't you introduce yourself to us and tell us a little bit about you?
Well, you pretty much said all of it. I am a board certified master health coach. I wasn't always a health coach, and I wasn't always a poster child for anything healthy. I've got to give full disclosure there. I was just your regular person, stressed out, workaholic, wife, mom, business owner. And then I was blindsided one time after I went for a mammogram, and when they told me I had breast cancer. I mean, I was always very responsible, so I would go every year for my mammograms. It never ever, and I don't have a history of breast cancer in my family. It never occurred to me ever that I would come out of that that it would be different than any other year that I went in. But it was a really a shocking thing because, like I said, I just had no idea that I would really be at risk because I didn't have a family history. And that experience literally changed my whole life for the better. I know that sounds weird. Rarely hear someone say they had cancer and it changes their life for the better. But for me, it did, because it ended up being a wake-up call that I really needed. I want to say forced, but yeah, forced, because it was like a life or death situation. So it really forced me to take a look at, how I took care of myself. I really wanted to know what caused this cancer to develop in my body.
Right.
And those were questions that when I asked my doctors, they really couldn't give me a solid answer that I felt satisfied with. I mean, they would just tell me things like, oh, well, bad luck, bad genes, luck of the draw, that type of thing. And I always felt like if I knew why something happened, I felt like I would have more confidence in being able to get better from it or heal from it. And in my case, I mean, I probably, like most people out there, sadly, I know many, many people who have been diagnosed with cancers. Actually, my dad had colon cancer when I was a kid. So I know many people who had different cancers over the years, and almost everyone was being offered the same treatment protocols that I was being offered,
right?
Which were basically surgery, radiation, chemo. And in my case, I was diagnosed with an estrogen positive breast cancer. So they wanted me to take tamoxifen pretty much for the rest of my life, which is an estrogen blocker.
Okay.
And so when I thought about all those things, I thought, everything that was being offered to me was actually known to cause other cancers, with exception of surgery, of course. But we know that radiation causes cancer. I mean, think about it. You go to the dentist, they want to take a picture of your molar.
Right.
They throw that metal vest on you. The tech is like running out of the room in terror before they hit that button for like 2 seconds, right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So we know that that's a danger. It's well documented that chemotherapy is a cancer-causing agent.
Okay.
And it's also well documented that taking tamoxifen causes uterine cancer.
All right.
So when I started looking at all the things they were offering to me, I started thinking, wow, this is really, I couldn't, in my mind, I couldn't figure out if what they were saying were the benefits were going to outweigh the risk and side effects. And so I couldn't agree right away. So I went home. My husband and I are Christians, went home. I had to spend a lot of time in prayer because I was freaking out and I was scared out of my mind.
Of course. Yeah.
I just needed like some way to get a handle and wrap my head around, what was actually happening to me.
Okay.
And through that time, I just started doing so much research, and I learned so much about the body that I just never knew. And I also learned a lot about cancer that I never knew. And what I learned was that it could take cancer 10 years to grow in the body before it could be detected, before you can feel a lump, before
Wow.
it'll show up on any type of scan. That's a long time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this has been going on in my body for a really long time. Now, when we asked the doctor, my husband was like, well, if my wife does these protocols, will she be cured? And the doctor's answer to me was, well, there's no guarantees. We'll consider it to be a success if there's no recurrence of cancer after 5 years. And I thought, wow, 5 years. And I thought about, going through the treatment. I thought about probably how it would affect my quality of life through the time I went through the treatment. And so I started thinking about it, and I was like, if I did absolutely nothing, it probably would be another 10 years before the cancer would spread to the next stage or progress to the next stage.
Okay.
Or if I did treatment, there's a good bet I'd be sick for 5 years.
Okay.
And then even if I were to recover at that point, more than likely after that, within that 10-year period, there would be a pretty high likelihood of a recurrence or a secondary cancer or a metastasis of some kind. So it was kind of like a crapshoot. I was like, holy mackerel. And so then I started learning about the body, and I learned that the key really to actually preventing cancer and healing from cancer is the power of your immune system. That's the key to everything. Mm-hmm. And the key to having a strong immune system is actually, for very many of us, I would say 99% of us, is in our hands to actually produce. Okay. So I learned about how do you make your immune system stronger? Well, you make it stronger by the foods that you eat, by how you manage stress, by whether or not you choose to move your body on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. And it's like a whole concert of all these things that work together, rebuilding your immune gut health, all of your systems in your body that are actually part of the immune system that I never knew were part of the immune system. Your GI, your liver, your skin, your kidneys, all of this stuff works together. And I thought, wow, this is crazy. And so I started thinking about it, and I thought it made so much more sense to me personally to try to nourish my body so it could heal and get better than to bombard it with a lot of poisons, hoping that maybe after that point I could maybe get well. So I just, I decided, before I made this decision, though, I will be honest with you, I met a woman who actually had been diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer 20 years before my diagnosis, and she was still alive, kicking. Okay. Wow. and I thought to myself, I don't know about you, but I had never met anybody who lived 20 years and had a vibrant life after.
I haven't. I haven't at all.
No, I had not. And it totally blew me away. And she was telling me about her experience, and she had gone a natural route. And that was way before there was the internet, way before you could do the kind of research that we could do now. Hmm. And so she was telling me about her experience, and she said to me, if you're even considering thinking about trying some natural things, she said, I will tell you this. You probably have more time than you feel like, because when you are diagnosed with cancer, there's a huge rush, a lot of pressure to like get into treatment immediately, because you really have this sense like your life is over and you're going to die. You're going to die like
Okay.
in 5 minutes from the time they tell you, you feel like you're just dying, you know? And so she said, you actually have a little more time to process what your decisions are going to be, what choices you're going to make. And, you know, if you do decide to try something natural, they will never turn you away. If it didn't work for you, you can always go back. They'll always give you surgery. They'll always give you radiation, and they'll always give you chemo. They'll never tell you no.
That makes
And
sense.
I thought, wow, what a great plan B. I thought, you know what? That gave me a sense of comfort, actually, because you know, because you're always wondering, are you making the right decision? And I thought, I'm going to give this a try. It was like I had so much peace about it, crazy as it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, I'm going to give this a try. And so, you know, I changed everything. I changed the way I ate. I detoxified my body. I started moving, which I didn't do regularly because I was one of those girls who just didn't love exercising. You know, I found out, you know, that I wasn't managing stress very well in my life. And I've learned how to do that much better on a daily basis. And, you know, I used herbs and stuff that's been around for eons, like from Ayurvedic medicine or Chinese medicine and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I used those types of things. And then when I went back 6 months later to be retested, after they ran the battery of tests on me, they couldn't find the cancer anymore. And so
Wow.
the doctor gave me what's called the NED, which is no evidence of disease, which any cancer patient knows that's what you want to hear, because that means that there's no cancer there anymore.
All
And
right.
so, you know, it was like the most amazing experience. So, like when I tell you it changed my life for the better, it really did, because through that process, like when I had been diagnosed, I was in my early 50s. I had just entered menopause, and I was one of those lucky gals that had the menopausal middle packed on, you know, those extra pounds that many of us women struggle with, especially when we hit that stage of life. And I'm no stranger to dieting. I was a yo-yo dieter my whole life, so I couldn't figure out how to get that weight off.
Okay.
But when I started changing everything about my diet, the things that I was doing on a regular basis, that weight just came off. It just like 30 pounds melted off all by itself. I didn't have to do anything, which was a whole new experience for me as someone
Yeah.
who was dieting well. I didn't have to do anything. It just kind of came off on its own. And now here I am 7 years later, cancer free, and I still have not regained the 30 pounds. So, it's like an amazing transformation that actually occurred in my life and in my body because of that experience. So
Wow.
that's the reason why I became a health coach, because it was like, as I was doing all this stuff, right, I would implement the things I was learning, and I was on my own. At that time, I didn't really know what health coaching was. And if I did, I wouldn't have had a clue how to find one, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I was just kind of figuring stuff out on my own. But everything I did, as I learned about it and I applied it to my body, I could feel it working, which is like an amazing thing. Like, you know, like I was telling you, you know, the weight started coming off, my energy returned. People noticed the difference. I mean, I'm kind of a coward. I really didn't tell people that I was doing this experimental thing for myself at this time, just because I was like, I had enough going on. I was like, I couldn't handle defending my position to people. I figured, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to see how it goes. And if it's
Right.
successful, I could say, hey, look what happened. Right. And that's how it was. And so as I learned all these things, my body was improving. My energy was returning. I was feeling really good. I think I probably, and I still feel really good. I felt better, and I really looked better than I had even when I was a little bit
Right.
younger than that, you know? And every time I learned something new, I thought, why didn't anybody tell me any of this before? If I had known, I probably could have avoided breast cancer entirely. In fact,
Wow.
you cannot talk me out of that one. I'm totally convinced that had I known the things that I knew, that I learned through this process, I know I could have avoided it. I know it.
Interesting. You know, you've answered several questions I was gonna throw in there, because the one question I had at the beginning is, if you didn't have any kind of background in healthy eating and exercise and movement and anything, what made you think about that's what you need to start doing? But then you say you talked to the person that says, hey, might as well try something, and then you started researching. So yeah, you answered my question before I even answered. That's not good for the host, but good for, good for
Sorry.
you. You're fine. You're fine.
I'll try to hold it back.
It's fine. It's fine. Okay. Now, as fascinating as all that is, and it's fantastic. I mean, you're an inspiration. I'm sure you get told that all the time, and you're full of knowledge. And this is not the first time I've heard something like this. I interviewed somebody 12 years ago, 13 years ago, and I won't mention his name because I just because it's irrelevant at this point. But he's all into natural food, and his whole thing was, and I'm condensing probably 40 years of his life into one little sentence here. It just is, if you put good food into your body's going to produce good cells, basically.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And now I'm hearing it from you as well. Like, it makes sense, and so I got to reach back out to this guy again. So, all right, here's what I wanted to talk about for more of a, I guess, fun, and let's face it, when you talk about cancer and stuff, it's not always fun. Right?
True.
It is definitely educational, and people need to hear it, but it's not always fun.
True.
I like to get into a little bit of fun with my podcast as well.
All right.
Okay, your Good Nature Wellness podcast.
Yes.
Okay. I want to do things a bit differently, because I've gone through a lot of the episodes, wrote down titles which really intrigued me, and I'm going to ask you about them.
Okay.
So this is not rehearsed, not staged or anything. And folks that are listening, Barbara did not give me any questions to ask her. All right. That's basically how in my opinion, a true, authentic podcast should go. Just a conversation type thing. Okay. So one of the things that really got me is, what is wellness and why do you need it? That's the title of one of your podcasts. So What is wellness?
Well, you know what? That's one of those like elusive terms that I think we hear, but nobody really knows what it means. I had no idea what it was either, honestly. And basically, when you talk about wellness, it's like it encompasses everything about the person. It's your physical health, it's your emotional health, it's your mental health. They all work in concert with each other. And the interesting thing about it is that, and this is something I didn't really understand fully until I went through my whole transformational experience, is that nothing is isolated. Our physical wellness and health is attached to our emotional wellness and health, and those are attached to our mental health and wellness. So the idea is to get a bigger picture of yourself or ourselves as human beings, because I think a lot of times we have, just as people in our culture, we have a very symptomatic focus. Like, we think about what's hurting us at the moment, what can I do to get relief from this particular symptom? But meanwhile, whatever's happening is usually a red flag that's going on from something else in the body. It's your body telling you, hey, there's an issue going on here. And interestingly enough, like, and this was true for me in that 10-year period prior to the diagnosis, like, the body will send out all these red flags, and you may not even realize that they're associated with one another. You might have a stomach ache or something, but you may not realize that you're so stressed out that it's affecting your gut. So like, that's just like a little microcosm there. So the idea about wellness is for people to get a bigger picture of, what that means for their body physically, but how everything in their body is connected and how one thing impacts the other. But conversely, when you improve one area, you'll improve another. So the whole idea is to get people thinking about the fact that, it's not just related to a symptom, because our bodies are so incredibly designed
Mhm.
that they are doing all this stuff that we are totally unaware of, because if it didn't happen, we'd be dead.
Yep, absolutely, yes.
And the fact that all this is going on to keep us in this state of being like really optimally healthy. And so I think the other idea behind it is that as we get older, I think there's a misconception, and I had it too, that, granted, we are aging, our bodies are changing, but there's a whole misconception that we have to just settle for like waiting for the total breakdown of our body and, commiserating about our symptoms. And then we just have to settle for living a life that's less than.
Right.
And I think that when you think about real wellness, you can get a sense that just because you're getting older doesn't mean that everything is just going to degrade to the point where you will not be able to do anything. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and you hit on hit a couple of points that I talk about all the time. The human body is a remarkable mechanism, a remarkable machine, if you will.
Yes.
It's designed to do all kinds of things, and one of the things that is not designed to do is sit around eating bonbons and watching Oprah all day. It's not designed to do that, but most
It's
people use it in that way, and it's going to output what you put into it.
very true.
Okay. So, however, like you said, however you define wellness, and I think there's you ask 100 people what it means, and you're gonna get 100 different answers,
Absolutely.
in my opinion. But I love what you said about the human body is very, however you said it, it's complex, but it's marvelous at the same time. So fantastic. All right. Something that I'd like to talk about quite a bit. Another one of your headlines. How much sugar is too much? And I ask this because I tell people all the time. Now, with Top Fitness Strategies, I work with the over 50 crowd. And the more basic I keep things, I think it just makes a mental stability of folks. So I tell them, I'm not going to tell you here to eat salad and be a rabbit all day long. I'm not going to tell you to do that. But I will tell you, cut back on sugar, cut back on salt, and drink more water. All right. So when I saw you say how much sugar is too much sugar, what do you think is too much sugar for the human body?
Well, I'm coming at it from a different point of view on that one for
Okay.
me personally, because through what I discovered is that the number one thing that's going to feed cancer in anybody's body is sugar. So for me personally, cutting back is really important. But I think there's a misconception about sugar because there's two different kinds of sugar. We have our processed sugars,
Mm-hmm.
which are in all of our sweets, our baked goods, our cereals, our drinks. It's like in everything. And then there's natural sugars that are found in fruits and vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
And those, I think that sugar gets a bad rap when you look at that, because when you hear sugar, you just say, oh my God, all sugar is bad. But really, it isn't all bad, because really your body needs sugar to run. It's one of the fuel sources that our body uses. However, you want to be sure that you're not feeding it a lot of this processed sugar all the time, because that's when you run into problems where you end up with your body gets an inability to process the sugar properly. You get insulin resistance. You end up with fat stores in your body, especially in your belly. Not good. So, but what I would tell people is to move away as much as possible from processed sugars. And this is something that I talked about in the episode, and moving more toward natural sugars, things that are really nutrient dense. And I think that that's the takeaway from that, because when you talk about fruits and vegetables, even though there's sugar content in them, because like I meet people all the time, they're like, oh my God, I'm not allowed to eat fruit. And it's like, well, nothing could be further than the truth, because fruit is
Thank you. Thank you.
it's full of incredible nutrient qualities. And even many fruits are cancer fighting, and I know we're not just talking about that, but when you think about it,
Mm-hmm.
the benefits to your body so far outweigh the sugar. And the thing is, sugar, fruit is one of these, it's like an amazing design that God has. It's like It's
Yep.
perfectly packaged. You can carry it anywhere you want, and you can even eat the packaging. It's not going to bother you, and it has the perfect balance of sugar and then the fiber and then the pectins, and that will gives you a sustained slow release of sugar throughout the day so that you don't have blood sugar spikes. You don't have to worry about the ups and the downs and the crashes, because it's something that your body actually knows how to use and knows how to process, and your cells all benefit from it. So that episode talks a lot about that, and about also something else to be wary of is artificial sweeteners, because lots of times, especially like if you work with people who I know I do, who are looking to, maybe for some sort of weight management solutions, everybody's go-to is, grab the diet thing, grab the artificial sweetener, and
Yep.
really a lot of those things, we could go into we could do
Oh, yeah.
eons on that one by itself, but the detriments of those things really outweigh it. So if you're really thinking about it, if you can move toward natural, just fruit sources of sugar, you'll be good. That's all I could
I
say.
tell people, and I eat a ton of vegetables. I eat a ton of vegetables. So think about fruits. This is something I just wrote down. Is there can someone eat too much fruit or too many fruits? However, the proper English is there. Is it too much fruits?
It
Somebody eat?
probably depends on the person. I personally don't think that you can eat too much fruit, because I find that when you eat fruit, like I said, I just was talking a few minutes ago about how you get this combination of fiber that comes along with the fruit. So
Mhm.
when you eat fruit, it's actually a lot more satisfying than it would be if you were to eat, say, candy or some kind of sweet thing, because when you're eating just plain sweets, your brain is getting that dopamine hit. So it's like it gets into the feeling of that euphoric feeling of pleasure that you get from eating something sweet. But you don't, it's not accompanied with the full feeling. So you're never really satisfied. Now, when you eat fruit, on the other hand, you get both. You get the flavor, you have the experience of the release of sugar, you get that kind of pleasurable thing. It's satisfying and it keeps you full. So I think I don't know if it's ever like where you're going to actually overeat on fruit, because I think what happens is when you eat it, your body responds better and then you're more satisfied by eating it.
Makes
Now,
sense.
if there are people who are, have insulin sensitivities, they would definitely have to work their way up to that point. They would have to get to a point where their body is managing blood sugars better before they would max out on fruit. I would say that's very true. And of course, if you are someone who is has been diagnosed with cancer, or if you're concerned about cancer, you probably want to move toward lower sugar fruits, like things like berries, strawberries,
Okay.
blueberries, um, even apples. I mean, apples is like the perfect fruit, honestly. But yeah, like staying away from super, super high sugar fruits, like things like mangoes that have a higher sugar content. But
Okay.
again, if you're eating the whole fruit, you probably won't have a problem. I think you get into a bigger problem when you do things like, and I'm big on juicing, but if you just juice your fruit and you totally remove all the fiber content and you're left with just the liquid, then you're going to have a higher sugar content than that, because you've lost the fiber. So actually eating the fruit is better.
My gosh, you've opened up so many more interesting topics we can go into here. I mean, something I'm passionate about as well. But I only asked for a half hour of your time, and I got one more question I'm going to ask you. But before we do, I'm talking with Barbara Walsh from GoodNatureWellness.com. Tell us about some of these the freebies that you're offering to folks to come visit you. What do you got? What do you got
Yeah.
out there?
Well, I have an awesome gift I'd love to give to you guys.
Good.
This one I think would be really good for your audience. It's actually it's the busy woman's secret to having energy that won't quit, and it's actually all about how you can sustain your energy levels throughout the day without maxing out on caffeine, without going for that candy bar at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then you still have energy to get through your entire day and have energy to spare when the day ends. So you could do other things like maybe have fun with your family or do something you really like. And so I think that people find that information that I put in there pretty eye-opening. And so, yeah, I'd love for you guys to have that. So I think you're going to post the link for that. But
absolutely, I will. But that's at goodnaturewellness.com. Is that correct?
yeah, goodnaturewellness.com. And then it's goodnaturewellness.com/secret energy freebie.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to post those links, folks, so don't worry about that. All right. And before I let you go, this is the one podcast title that I absolutely loved. And I got to ask you about it. How to fall in love with exercise, even if you hate the exercise. And I say that because my belief is I don't think anybody loves to exercise. They love the results they get from exercising.
Yeah.
That's my belief. So how to fall in love? How do you fall in love with it?
Well, for me, like I mentioned briefly before, I never liked to exercise, honestly. I was never a sporty girl. I never really liked that. And so it just kind of, I was always the last kid picked for kickball. So it's like I always had left a bad taste in my mouth, the whole idea about exercising. And I think the key to falling in love with exercising, if you hate it, is to change what you call it, number one. Like for me, I had to stop calling it exercise because when I thought of exercise, it just always in my mind, it conjured up, team sports, it conjured up all of these types of things that didn't appeal to me. But when I started calling it movement, it made more sense to me. So that was number one, call it movement. And number two, like people say, well, what's the best exercise to do? And I always tell them the one you will do. So
absolutely.
The key is you got to find something that you love and just do it. I mean, it could be something so simple too. Like, I think that's the other misconception. When you think about exercise, everybody thinks, feel the burn. I got to work until I pass out, work out till I pass out, but the idea is consistency is the thing that gets you there. So if you can find something that you love, even if it's like taking a walk, which is pretty powerful on its own, honestly, taking a walk, taking your dog for a walk, playing with your kids, anything that dancing is another good one. Anything that you really love to do and just do it consistently and you will fall in love with it. Because then what happens is in the process, your body starts to like say, hey man, I feel good. Your body starts to like tone up and lean up. And not only that, but you get all of those great, those feel-good chemicals get released in your brain when you exercise. And then that in itself becomes kind of like a habit-forming thing, which is actually really good for you.
Fantastic. I mean, you said something that I thought I was the only one that ever said it, but you said it as well. The best exercise is the one that you'll do.
Absolutely.
I've been saying that for years. So, man, finally somebody else is telling the same thing I am. So I feel vindicated. Thank you so much. All right, folks, this is we come to the end here. This is Barbara Walsh, goodnaturewellness.com. I will post the links in the show notes. No problem there. Check it out. Check out the free gift that she's offering folks over there. And if you ever have any questions for Barbara, I'm sure she'll be able to answer it. She also has a great podcast. And I do believe you have a YouTube page as well.
Yeah, I've just started a YouTube page. I'm getting it up there. I'm just starting to branch out there. I was doing mostly podcasting, so I'm kind of branching out now. So yes.
Okay. Fantastic. Again, goodnaturewellness.com. Check out Barbara Walsh. And Barbara, thank you for being a guest today. Any parting words you have for the folks listening?
My parting word. Well, first I want to say thank you for having me. And then the last thing I want to leave your viewers and your listeners with is don't wait to feel amazing. That's all I got to say. Because I think, as I said, we get a little older and we think, well, if I do one little thing, it's not going to make a big difference, and then unfortunately, like myself, there's so many people out there that don't do anything until the doctor hands you some kind of devastating news. And all I could say is you don't have to wait till the doctor hands you a diagnosis, and you don't have to wait until you feel like you're completely falling apart. You can start right now and you can feel better than you ever have in your life. Take it from me. I'm old.
You're not old. I'm old. You're not old. Don't give me that. Don't wait to feel amazing. That's going to be the name of this episode. I'm telling you. Don't wait to feel amazing.
Don't wait.
Fantastic. All right, folks. This is Andrew, Top Fitness Strategies, with my guest, Barbara Walsh from goodnaturewellness.com. And visit me over at topfitnessstrategies.com. But you know all about that already in the show notes. Go check them out and click on the links. Barbara, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for being here. So until next time, I'm Andrew. I am the face who runs the place. This is Andrew and Barbara. Ciao.
Bye.